No one talks about him at dinner parties. His name isn't printed on billion-dollar buildings. And if you Google richest man in history, you might not even see his face. But make no mistake, he was richer than Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and every oil sheik combined. And one day, he vanished. No warning, no explosion, no body, just gone, like a ghost swallowed by gold. His name? Mansa Musa, King of Kings, the Lion of Mali, and the man whose fortune was so massive, it collapsed entire economies. Let's rewind the clock. Back to the 1300s. When Europe was stuck in the Dark Ages, and Africa, the Mali Empire stretched like a golden blanket across West Africa, from the Atlantic coast to the heart of the Sahara. And at its center, Mansa Musa. Now don't get it twisted. This wasn't some local king with a shiny crown and 2 guards. Musa controlled over half the world's known gold supply. Let that sink in. Half the world. But here's where it gets wild. No one in Europe even knew he existed until he decided to take a little road trip. Only it wasn't little. In 1324, Mansa Musa set out on a pilgrimage to Mecca. A spiritual journey, sure, but also a power move. He didn't ride alone. He brought an army of 60,000 people. Servants, soldiers, scholars, singers, all wearing gold, all walking in line like something out of a fantasy novel. And the camels? They carried gold, tons of it. Literally, hundreds of camels, each hauling 300 pounds of solid gold dust. The moment he entered Cairo, Egypt stopped breathing. People thought a god had arrived. He handed out gold like candy. To the poor, to merchants, to anyone who crossed his path. He was generous, too generous, because he didn't just give away gold, he devalued it. Prices in Egypt crashed, inflation went nuts, and it took 12 years for the economy to recover. Think about that. One man shows up in your country for a few weeks, and your currency tanks for over a decade. That's not wealth, that's mythical power. Mansa Musa became an instant legend. His name spread across Africa, the Middle East, Europe. He was painted on maps. Writers called him the richest man ever. But then, he went back to Mali, and soon after, silence. He never made another world tour, no journals, no goodbye speech. He disappeared from the world stage like he'd never existed. But the question still haunts historians. What happened to Mansa Musa? Some say he died peacefully, others say he was overthrown. Some whisper he found something in the desert and chose to never return. Because when you have everything, gold, power, glory, maybe what you crave most is disappearing. Mansa Musa didn't just stumble into wealth. He built an empire, and did it with more brain than brute. See, Mali wasn't just some desert kingdom with a few mines. It sat on a gold highway. Literal trade routes pulsed through his land, carrying salt, ivory, slaves, and most importantly, gold. But Musa didn't hoard it. He controlled it. He taxed every merchant that passed through. He built cities along the trade routes to feed, house, and protect travelers. And in return, they brought their business and their loyalty. Now here's what most people miss. Mansa Musa wasn't just rich in coin. He was rich in culture. After returning from his pilgrimage, he came back changed. Spiritual, focused, and ambitious in a whole new way. He didn't just want gold mines and castles. He wanted legacy. So what did he do? He built the city of Timbuktu into a global wonder. A place of libraries, of learning, of light. Thousands of scholars came to study math, astronomy, medicine, philosophy in Africa. While Europe was still burning witches, Mali was producing manuscripts by the thousands. He brought architects from Cairo, scholars from Persia, and built the Djinguereber Mosque, still standing today. Carved from mud and faith, he didn't just pour gold into cities, he poured ideas. And the craziest part? Most of the world still doesn't know. The West buried African history under centuries of silence. But beneath that silence are libraries full of secrets. In Timbuktu, over 700,000 ancient manuscripts were written and stored. On science, law, literature, astronomy. Proof that Mali wasn't just a gold empire, it was a civilization. And who made that possible? Mansa Musa. He took a desert and turned it into a university. He took trade routes and turned them into arteries of culture. He wasn't just the richest man, he was one of the smartest rulers history forgot. But that brings us back to the shadow. Why did he vanish? Because here's where it gets strange. After his death, his son took over, but the empire began to shrink. Internal struggles, invaders, corruption. The gold never ran out, but the vision did, and slowly, the empire faded. Timbuktu was looted, manuscripts were hidden in caves, and Mansa Musa's name, whispered in African villages, forgotten by textbooks. erased from maps, but not entirely. Because guess who studied him in modern times? Jeff Bezos, Jay-Z. Even Kanye West once compared himself to Musa. Because Musa didn't just flex his wealth, he shaped the world with it. He wasn't about yachts and watches, he was about strategy, infrastructure, nation building. And he did it in a time when most of the world didn't even know his name. So maybe his disappearance wasn't tragic. Maybe it was poetic. A king so powerful, his final act, there's something haunting about silence. Especially when it follows a man who shook the world. Mansa Musa didn't die in battle. No grand farewell tour. No final monument carved in stone. Just gone. Some believe he stepped down quietly, handing the throne to his son, and fading into a spiritual life. Others whisper that he didn't trust his court anymore, that betrayals were circling him like vultures. But then, there are the legends. And if you've come this far, maybe you're ready to hear them. One story says Mansa Musa discovered something in the heart of the Sahara. Not just more gold, but a gate, a hidden place older than Mali, built by an ancient civilization. A vault of forbidden knowledge guarded by sandstorms and silence. And when Musa found it, he chose not to share it with the world. He vanished into the desert to protect what should never be uncovered. Another tale says he didn't die at all, that he left Africa by sea, on a ship filled with scholars, gold, and scrolls, to find the edge of the world. Remember, this was a man who ruled land, trade, and culture. Maybe he wanted something more, something eternal, a new kingdom, built on wisdom, not war, built in silence, not spotlights. Crazy? Maybe. But remember, the richest man in history left behind fewer records than a 200-year-old pirate. And yet, his name still shakes history books. Why? Because it's not about how long you're remembered. It's about what you're remembered for. And Mansa Musa's legacy isn't just his gold. It's what he did with it. He didn't build walls, he built doors. Doors to knowledge, doors to trade. Doors that gave future generations something more valuable than money. You see, for a continent that was later plundered, colonized, and rewritten, Mansa Musa stands as a reminder. Africa was never poor, it was targeted because it had gold, it had knowledge, and it had kings like Musa who could humble entire civilizations without lifting a sword. So here's the twist. Maybe he didn't disappear. Maybe he chose to become a myth, because sometimes a myth travels farther than a man ever could. And maybe that's the real genius of Mansa Musa. He turned his exit into an enigma, and left behind a trail of gold that leads not to riches, but to reflection. So if you've ever felt small, if you've been told your history doesn't matter, if you think the world only remembers what it can exploit, remember this man. A king, a pilgrim, a phantom of gold, who walked into the desert and became immortal. If this story moved you, don't just keep it to yourself. Hit like, comment, "Still walking, Mansa Musa," and share this video with someone who needs to know. Africa didn't wait for a crown, it created legends. And maybe you're next.